I remember when I was watching back in the, well, I think the hippie revolution back in the, might have been 60s, early 70s on some TV show. I don't know what it was. I don't know who it was talking about, it was saying about, I think it was a generation gap. It's saying how people couldn't get along to get, parents and their children couldn't get along, and how divisive, or not, I don't know if it's divisive, but how divided families had become since the 60s, and how 50s was family oriented. But what they said was they claimed the nuclear family. I don't know if that was like the fear of maybe it's fear that creates a family, fear of starving, fear of this, fear of that. But basically, when this country was started, they would send the kids would be sent at a certain age out to somebody else. They wouldn't stay at home. Like the oldest, I don't know, it is in their teens, maybe they just turned teens, or might have been younger, where they were old enough to work, that they would be sent out and apprenticed. They would work with somebody else, and which didn't make sense. I mean, if the family didn't have a why would you have kids if you don't have any reason to have them? They're just breeding. It's like to fill up space or whatever. So they'd have a kid and they'd send them over to somebody that would apprentice them for, maybe 20 years. And then they go off on their own. They go off on their own and become a whatever. And that's how it was back when they're like, I don't know if it was a pilgrims or just post-pilgrims, just barely post-pilgrims, when they started moving out away from the main village, when they moved out to the country. And I think they lived in clans and stuff, where the family would have houses in the same area and stuff. But anyway, they're talking about family oriented, and that's, it's not really historical. Maybe you go back to Neanderthals and they were family oriented, or the Neolithic, they were probably family oriented. Everything was clan back then, where it's all family, family village. The whole village was family. But then you get inbreeding, and whether they knew, because animals. I don't know if there's a weakness at a certain point. The weakness of inbreeding becomes hazardous, and animals automatically know that there's a weakness there. And that's how, like, say if two lions or whatever meet, and instead of having that lion breed its daughters, another lion will come in, and there's some knowledge of weakness there. They don't identify as inbreeding. It's just there's a weakness. And then you come up to a couple thousand years ago, and you got Jesus realized that he was part of an inbreed basically race. And so he went around, gathered all of his relatives that he knew, male relatives, after he'd gone off on a journey. Where he went to, I don't know. Maybe he was a criminal. Maybe he went to, I don't think Jews back then could sign up to be in the military. I mean, maybe they could, but I think there was mostly only could, maybe work for like soldiers or whatever. I don't think they could actually soldier. There might have been. I don't know. Might have been their own army. Whatever. Wherever he went to, he came back and realizing, what it's like to be around people that aren't inbred. And so he went and gathered his relatives, which is all his disciples. They were all related. All his disciples were related. They got places in the Bible that tells about it, how this, that, and the other, and this is related to this, and even Judas was like he had like a second marriage and stuff like that. They was related by a second marriage or something. It was all related somehow. And so he took them away from their wives to keep them from inbreeding. And I basically that's what that was all about. And if you look at it that way, you can reference and realize what he's talking about and what the cross means. Cross means is crossbreeding, not being an inbred race. What the trouble with it was, you know, I think that's the reason he said he was, you know, he was saying he was the king of the Jews. He was, I can't remember, was it maybe a week or so ago, I came across that, of why he would have said that, to prove that they, I can't remember, anyway, I can't remember what it was why he would have said that. Not basically, you know, all his story is religion, and religion probably came from inbreeding, where you would hallucinate. You know, you'd probably hallucinate or believe. Inbreeding would cause you to believe more often than not what somebody else told you. If you was around your inbred family, you're going to believe what they tell you more often than not. Now, I don't know if that's true with some of the Appalachian hillbilly inbreeds. Maybe they might not even, they look more like too close of inbreeds, but anyway. So you bring it up to nowadays, and you wonder why all this stuff was going on, and people are saying the nuclear family, and the nuclear family, this guy that was on the show was referring to this inbreed stuff, how inbreeds, they're referring with nuclear is, it was actually referenced because nuclear hazard or nuclear accidents, they say causes mutants. And so you get a bunch of real tight inbreeds, and they create like this mutant. And so it was like a give and take as far as a nuclear family, meaning nuclear. They think it's just everybody surrounded like electrons and stuff, but it also has reference to inbreeds that they are all circled around. You know, they're all one family and stuff, and they basically work for the family, and they don't have as much rebellion to be individuals. It's all about the family, because there's somehow some mental tie or something like that. And so nowadays, all these people that they'll have, you know, you have a mother and a father that aren't, you know, everybody's crossbreeding. So you got a mother and a father that have their background through history are completely different. They're not the same, even if they went to high school together, their background, their DNA, everything like that is just completely whack different. Then, you know, and then they come together and they think they're told that family and all this stuff from the Bible, which was a bunch of inbreeds, and their family is going to be different than somebody who's crossbreeding and have no background at all together. And then they try to raise this kid just because they think, well, we just say family and this, that, and the other, and we say code words, and it automatically means that these people are going to fall in line. Where this kid is having a mind explosion of two different histories of DNA coming at him, two different completely ideologies that could go back. I mean, when you're born to something, you automatically can flow through it. I mean, you might not be able to identify who you're with, but the flow going through it until you're interrupted by maybe education or religion, where they want you to find different routings instead of just your family. And what that is they're trying to get you to be just like them, and they've never been like each other before. They came together in marriage, and you're just an offspring. And they want you. There's no rule settings, and that's a problem. They're trying to raise. They got rules and stuff, and all the wording is coming from inbreds, and you're trying to raise these individuals that have no background at all. You're raising an individual and saying, be like us. Well, thing about that is none of these people that are doing all the crossbreeding are have the same background. So you got all these different individuals with all these different backgrounds that made them up, and now they got this made up, this whatever story that's putting them together, and then they're trying to find peace in finding something else because their parents are living in some inbreed thing, and they're just throwing stuff at you that has nothing to do with being a crossbreed. So you have all this individuality and it's coming together, but you got people that have been brought up through church and stuff, or just whatever activity it is that causes people, to like if both the parents have come from like a church background, and that's all it is just they go to church and they just, they at some point there's going to be an explosion of, it's just from the vibrations in the human body, because we're basically vibrations. We're not fast, we're not like a sander, but we're vibrations, and everything is either slower vibe or faster vibe. And so everybody's got these different vibrations and different tasks, and then you have people that, all these different types of people that there's certain families, maybe elitists, but not necessarily all elitists, because nowadays you just got people getting rich quick. I'm not talking about rich quick people. I'm talking about people over centuries have had the ability to make it in a certain area, and they pick and choose their partners, kind of like royalty, only that's what they have to be related. To be royalty, you have to be related, so that's all inbreed. And look, I'm guessing that Harry, being he had the red hair, and he was like, well, I can't do any more inbreeding. I'm gonna have to go step out as far away as I can get and basically be a crossbreed, because he's thinking, the defects are going to start coming in because maybe they've been inbreeding too far, or there's too much anyway. So that's the whole reason I think he stepped out and has such a problem with the family. And they've done that through time. All royals through time has you can see that they've stepped out of royalty, because they probably saying, hey, this is they're the only one that knows it, though. They're like, man, I can feel a difference. This doesn't feel right. The inbreeding in him is saying, you got to find somebody else. So you got all these people that are trying to follow this inbreed writings, where the Jews are supposedly in an inbred, whether they call themselves a race or not, they're basically, they say the characteristic and their traits, the physical traits and stuff, is basically from our inbreeding traits. So you got that. You got people that are crossbreeding, that are following inbreeding parameters. And what you have to do is you have to realize that what you're raising is an individual, and you're going to have to find those as an individual, as those, you can't just say you're going to fall in line. And that's what the problem with the generation gap is. I work here, and I sell propane, and now you want to sell propane, and maybe the kid is like, wow, that's not what I'm getting, because he's got these two DNA strands blasting at him, and they're not matching up with selling propane. Now, that father might have sold propane. Now, if his whole family sold propane, then they're, whatever. And then he married woman that was like whatever. What doesn't matter. Everybody's a mismatch. There's nobody nowadays is all about sex matchup instead of what your kids are going to be like. It has nothing to do. They're all matching up each other as far as the good, what they call the good. There's the good and the bad, or what is it, the better and for better and worse, and they're hooking up for is the better. There's no well, it could get worse, and that's the reason there's like what 50% of divorces, and why all these children are running around unhinged because these kids have been raised up with no discipline. And so their kids, the less disciplined they are, and it's not. I don't think Neanderthals had wild kids. I think if they were inbreds, they were all kind of fallen in line of the same thing because they would have all been the same type of thought patterns of what are the same history. So yeah, I was just 16 minutes. I think this needs to break off. But I was like saying, they're trying to raise people. You got the people that are that know they're independent. These people are out there like, well, I'm an independent, but they're kind of weird and goofy independents. Some of the stuff they're doing to be independent, to prove they're independent. Yeah, you're wearing all this stuff all over your face and saying you're in. Oh, you don't even have to do that to know that you look different than everybody else. Except for the arms and legs. And then you got the people that are like stolid in their. They've probably been raised a certain way, and so they follow into that certain way because they have a history. Their family has a history of raising them in a certain way. Where the other family is just they're wild and free, and they figure that's what makes them because the path is maybe just luck, and the other path is a determination. One side of the orientation is determination. The other side is just luck into it. And if all I got to do is find the right people, I know my people, and then that's find them, and then that's how I hook up. And this one is like, well, no, it's patience, practice, and perfection. And this side is freedom, and going where you're liberty, going where you want, doing what you want. And then these people over here are like, yeah, we have freedom and liberty, but it's not what you're talking about. And so you got the clash of what somebody's doing and somebody's talking about. And they're saying, well, we have this, we don't use it in the same way you use it. It's not, one is abuse and one is, anyway, it's, so nobody's, how these kids are raised, and if they're just blown freedom and then they hit society and they come up against a stolid foundation people, that aren't that are basically following crossbreed rule, and these people are like, well, we're not crossbreeds, we're or inbreed rule, and these people are following crossbreed. So anyway.